help you pick the right stock at the right time.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint. I am Agam Vakil and with me is Alex Matthew. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Agam. Well, if you've got questions on equity this Friday, this show is perfect for you. You can send your queries to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and WhatsApp. You can also call us on 02245404141 or you can mail us on askpq@bloombergquint.com. Only make sure to add the AskPQ hashtag. Markets ending the week on a slightly sour note.
Well, yes, I would say a somber note indeed. Losing out on 10,800 when it comes to the Nifty, and the Nifty, for that matter, the Sensex also declining as at this point in time down by a little less than 0.5%, below the 36,000 mark. The banking index is also falling in tandem with the benchmark indices, but it is holding. I mean, it's just a notch below 27,500. Mid cap and small cap indices also well moving largely in line with the benchmarks. Let's take a look at the gainers then very quickly and see where this traction is. So ITC, of course, advancing by as much as 1.5%, trying to make the dash back to the mark of 300 per share. UPL is the other one which is advancing in trade, up by around 1.5%. The same for Hindalco too. Among other gainers, we have Vedanta and Indian Oil Corp. But say for that, the rest are not advancing by more than 1%. And in terms of losers, we have Tata Motors, significant weakness, or perhaps largely on account of the drop that we've seen in Jaguar Land Rover sales for the month of December, down 6.4% there. TCS, of course, reacting to the big margins miss coming through in the third quarter. And Larsen & Toubro, well, that's also down by as much as 2%. On the whole, as you can see, there are a lot of heavyweights which are bearing down on the indices, and that is possibly the reason why we are looking at that 0.5% cut on the benchmarks. Alex.
All right. Well, we've got an interesting question to start today. Of course, we need to get our two experts in. Sharmila Joshi, who's an independent advisor, is joining us remotely. Thanks so much for joining us, Sharmila. In the studio with me is Kunal Rambhia of The Streets. They're both here to answer all of your questions. Kunal, I'm going to start the first question with you. We've got Mayank Saraf, who's asking about golden tobacco, all right? And what he's saying is, and if we can pull up the chart for today, it's on upper circuit today, and apparently has been for the last 10 to 15 days. So let's pull up the chart for the last couple of weeks if we can. The last 1 month, as you can see, the stock is up 124.4%. He's asking if you have any views. And that's apparently without any volumes to support it.
True, true. So, actually, we need a lot of volume in order to understand the psychology of market before looking at the charts. But definitely, I would say that Feb 2018 to March 2018, the stock was in the range of around 65, 66. Presently, it's trading at 58. If you're still long on the counter and you haven't booked the profit, this would be the zone near to 65, 66 would be the zone where you can book the maximum profit.
But in this scenario, with a volume of just 379 trades, would you say stay away and don't get caught up?
Absolutely. So if he's already holding the counter, it is advisable to now start booking the profit because it's near to that consolidation zone. And if you're not in the counter, then probably avoid this counter.
Yeah, it certainly is not a very liquid counter for you to be taking calls on technical basis. But we'll move on to the next one. The next one is from Batraji. He wants a long-term view on Khadim India. He asks, how are the fundamentals looking? Sharmila, good afternoon. How are you seeing Khadim India? It's clearly cheaper than perhaps something like a Bata or, for that matter, Relaxo Footwear, but their business model is also slightly different from theirs. What's your view on Khadim India?
And also, I think, volumes on this also tend to be quite low. So it's very difficult to comment, but overall, I think that it is trading at fairly decent valuation, so you can continue to hold.
All right. We've got a short-term query on L&T Finance Holding. This one from Ram Hegde on Facebook. Let's pull up the chart and see what it's currently trading 140. His buy price is not too far from that, about 150. He's asking whether he can hold for a year, first of all, and what his levels or the levels that he should watch should be.
So if you ask me on the daily chart, which is with the horizon of say 3 months, this stock was clearly making higher top, higher bottom from 110, it went up to 160. Right now the formations are expanding wedge on the chart. 140 is a strong support mark. If this stock holds this level, expect 170, 175 in couple of weeks time. But by any chance if it breaches 140 mark, I would advise to go short on the counter with the stop loss of 150, which is probably his buying price itself.
Okay, actually, Kunal, we have one query directed to you. We have Zina Satra on Facebook who wants to know, can escorts be bought into at 750 rupees per share? Let's take a look at escorts. It's around about there. How are you seeing trade on this one?
Again, the escort is clearly a mono wave right from the starting of 600 levels to 747. It wasn't making any higher top, higher bottom formation as such.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would say that this particular mono wave has to be played very carefully. If you're already long on the counter, keep the nearest stop loss of say around 700 mark, which was a recent breakout, 705. If you're not in the counter, start hunting for the shorting opportunities rather than entering for longs.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the mail queries. We've got Sterlite Tech and BSE. Sarthak Doshi has written us a mail. He wants to know the one-year target on these two companies. Let's pull up the chart and see where it's currently trading. Sterlite Tech first, and then we can look at BSE. Sterlite Tech just under the 300 mark. Let's also pull up BSE and check where it's at right now, 595.
So Sterlite Technologies, yes, since the end of December till now, the stock is clearly making the bottom formation in the range of 280 to around 300 mark. By any chance this stock manages to close about 300 mark, expect the stock to reach 340. That's a decent 10% gain on the counter. As far as BSE goes, you know, that stock is clearly laggard. I would stay away from that counter for time being.
Okay, well, we're moving on to the next query that we have. All right, I'm just going to take one up from my phone because, okay, so this one is on ITC. Prasanth Chowdhury has said that ITC has moved up. What are the good levels for a fresh entry? That's the question coming in. Sharmila, I'm going to take this one up with you. What's your view on ITC and what is the fresh entry, or where would you see a good entry level for ITC?
Well, you know, I don't do technical, so it's very difficult for me to give you a level for entry. But yes, I think it's a good stock, and as a disclosure, I own the stock. And what I like about the stock is the fact that within the FMCG space, perhaps among the sort of the top line FMCG plays, it is the valuations are slightly better. The negative, of course, is the fact that cigarette business continues to get, you know, sort of some kind of a regulatory problems. You get taxes increased in every budget, etc. So that becomes a bit of a concern area. But I think that, you know, post GST, that seems to have sort of streamlined for there. So I think that given the fact that they're also trying to get into other spaces, whether it's food, whether it's hotels, etc., you know, all their other businesses, IT, and this agri focus will help them going ahead. So net, it's a stock that I like, and for levels perhaps you should take a technical view.
Okay, you know, a lot of people have been asking about the metals counters and particularly about Vedanta. Sharmila, in the context of everything that's happening globally, all the macros that people are talking about, the growth outlook, slowing growth in several economies, what would you say with regard to metals overall? And if you're talking about Mahesh Bhai Yagnik's query, he's holding 20,000 shares of Vedanta at 204 levels. Let's pull up the chart and see where it's currently trading just to give a perspective. Not too far from his buy price, just under the 200 mark.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, for Vedanta outright, let's also add, you know, the fact that it's a metal play, but it also has that cane energy play. So it's got an oil and gas play also in it, you know. So it's a combination story. Secondly, I think for metals, if you're just looking at it as if you're asking me as a pure metal sector sort of a view, then it is a little cautious as of now, largely because of the, as you said, you know, as you mentioned, the global scenario is not absolutely in favor of metals at this point in time. A lot hangs on how the US-China talks proceed, and you will see that, you know, when you hear something positive, because now we have this new window till end of March. So in that 90-day window, if you get some positive news flow, then you see the sector moving up, as you see it reacting negatively. Domestic demand, I think, is strong, but a lot of times metals really move more to global cues than anything else. So you need to be a little cautious at this point in time, but domestic demand is strong.
Okay, well, we have one more query, and this one is actually in the futures and options space. It's with respect to IndusInd Bank. We have Saurabh Singh, who has said that he, okay, so he wants a view on the 1620 call, which is considerably away from current market prices, considering IndusInd Bank is at around 1535. Now, I'm uncertain if he wants to buy or sell the call, or if he's already bought that call. It's currently at 10.8. Kunal, from what I can see, it would be a better bet to sell it, but just give me your view on IndusInd Bank in general, and how are you seeing technicals here?
Certainly, I would agree with what you are saying. This stock was clearly making ascending triangle. Yesterday, post-result, we saw a correction in that the downward rally is continuing right now.
Yeah.
If the closing of the day comes near to the low, 1600 would be a stop loss for me, and I'll start shorting the counter.
Right.
So if you're asking for any view on the calls which are beyond 1600, I would say go short on every spike, because we are still left with around 20 days to expiry.
Right.
So a spike comes in, you start shorting the calls. You can earn better rather than going long on this counter.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a question from Ujjwal Kumar. This one's for you, Sharmila. He's bought, actually he's looking for a short-term view on RCF. Sorry about that. I'm going to go across to Kunal on this, because he bought RCF 18 months ago at a level of 78, and he's asking if he can average at current levels.
Perfect. Since October, this stock is struggling to go above 68 mark. And if you ask me about the consolidation pattern, it's clearly cup and handle formation near to the bottom. RSI is showing good divergences. That shows that the strength is gaining momentum. So by any chance the stock manages to close above 68, expect the stock to reach 80 mark. Till then, I would, stay sideline. So if you're already holding, definitely continue to hold.
Okay, well, considering we had TCS earnings being announced, and we also have a query on YouTube from Rahul. He says he has 50 shares of TCS and he's bought them at around 1958. What should I do? That's the question he is asking. Sharmila, what have you made of TCS earnings, and how would you help Rahul with his positioning right now, considering TCS is, about 100 odd points away from his entry price?
Well, I think the numbers were sort of in line, and no real disappointment there. I think the concern, I really honestly don't have any concerns with holding any of the larger IT companies if you have a slightly longer term view. Simply because, I think that now they've grown to a size where you can expect that their digital business will continue to grow. There is, I think, some overhang coming from the fact that they have a business in Europe and you have that whole Brexit hanging over there. So I think, that could be a cloud going forward. But I think overall, if you look at the way that business is spread and the way really, they spoke about what is happening in the US, etc. I would be positive. Also, I think in terms of valuations, some of these frontline IT stocks are actually trading cheaper to some of the mid-cap IT. So, now the tables have turned. So I would continue to be positive on TCS.
Sharmila, this one is clearly for you. I looked at it very carefully before I'm coming to you. So, Gaurav Jaggi is asking about MOIL and what its prospects are according to you.
MOIL?
Yes.
Well, very honestly, I think everything that's happening with crude, etc. I'm not really sure whether this is the space that you want to be in.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Okay. Well, uncertain if you want to be in MOIL, of course. But moving on, we have a question from Uma Shankar. He wants a view on Indian Oil Corp with a 1-year horizon. He's purchased the shares at 147, and of course it's currently trading at 131. So he's looking at a little bit of a loss. Kunal, how can you help them out?
So since September 2017, where the stock was trading near to 225 mark, it is clearly making lower top, lower bottom formation. What I can make out from the chart is that it's right now consolidating near 130 mark. If you're already holding the counter, different story. It's near to the support mark as of now. Continue to hold. You can start adding this counter once it crosses 150 mark on the higher side, when it would be a trend reversal after consolidation at the bottom.
And what about lower and what stop loss are you keeping it? Because his entry price is 147.
So right, so it's very near to the current market price itself. So what I would say is that keep the stop loss of around 122, which is again 10 rupees away from the present level. But yeah, that can be the stop loss.
Okay.
I think below that it can resume its downtrend again.
All right.
All right, two very different companies really. Adil Darvish has sent us a query on WhatsApp. He wants to know about Avanti Feeds first of all, and he's also interested in finding out about Indraprastha Gas. Avanti Feeds first, Sharmila, some concerns about the export markets for this counter, if I'm not mistaken. Would you say that you should invest at this level, or do you think that you should wait for a bit to get some clarity on that, and then also come in on Indraprastha Gas?
Yeah, just a quick note. We spoke earlier of moil, but I was thinking actually of oil. So I think in terms of moil, it looks okay given the kind of numbers they've had, etc. Of course, I think the overall concern for metal space would extend to moil. But my apologies there. I was thinking more of oil. Coming to Avanti Feeds precisely, I think post last year's budget there have been concerns, and this whole their whole export story is also under a cloud, and we've seen even the management has voiced concerns over that. I think they have to circumvent this, that whole issue, and you have to give it a couple of quarters to really come back to the kind of earlier growth levels that they had. So again, I think I would be a little cautious as far as Avanti Feeds were concerned. Where Indraprastha Gas is concerned, I think I'm a lot more positive, because I think that's a story of the future, and you are going to see more and more vehicles opt for this option. And this is a company, I think, that probably one can definitely even buy at this level.
Okay, well, there you have it. That's your view on Moil, IGL, as well as what was the third stock?
Avanti Feeds.
Avanti Feeds, of course. But move on, and we take a question on M&M. This is also a short-term query, and where Atul John has bought M&M at around 724, actually around the current market price, and we want a short-term target here. This question is on YouTube. Kunal?
So, if I look at the candlestick formation for the day, that's clearly bearish engulfing candle. The strong support for the counter is at around 718. Keep the strict stop loss of 718. By any chance the stock manages to close below that on cash level, I would advise you to go short, keeping the day's high as the stop loss. You could earn probably better on shorting.
Okay. Is it just me, or are we getting a lot of technical and short-term queries today? We've got Shankar Azmira who's asking a long-term query, however, on AU Small Finance Bank. Sharmila, are you still, convinced of the growth story for these companies, or do you think that they will be forgotten if you talk about the long-term prospects?
No, I think overall, there was this sort of concern over the entire NBFC space following what happened in DHFL. But I think, post November, December, a lot of those worries are now being put to rest. And I think now you have to look at it individually. Of course, I think IL&FS was a big concern. So, you've seen it being played out in the numbers of, say, an IndusInd Bank and thereof, because you don't know how much they'll really have to provision in that sense if they have an exposure to IL&FS. So that's becoming a concern point with some companies. But I think for AU Small Finance, those concerns are not there. So I think if your outlook is long-term, then it's at fairly decent valuation, so we can continue to hold the stock.
Okay, we take the next query from YouTube. It's from Janali. Her question is on L&D, and this is a technical view that's required, but from a one-year perspective, considering the horizon is longish from what has been mentioned, it's currently at around 1367. Kunal, over to you.
So now Feb 2018, the stock made high of 1450. Presently, that's in December 2018, again the stock made high of 1450. So if you ask me about the positional view on it, as of now it's clearly in distribution phase, and the today's selling cannot be ruled out. So keeping that in mind, I would go short on the counter unless the stock makes a higher top higher bottom formation which is near to probably high. I wouldn't go long. So positional view will be don't buy the counter unless it crosses 1450 on the higher side. Rather find the short opportunities on every bounce now.
Okay, not a very large company, so I'm not sure, Sharmila, if you have a coverage, but Mold Tech Packaging, just about 730 crores of market cap. What are the prospects according to you if you have coverage?
No, I'm sorry, I don't track this stock at all.
Do you possibly have a view? Would you be able to give a view? Shefali Singhal is looking for a fundamental view, but then if we can't do that, we might...
Moltec Technologies, which is presently trading at around 44 mark.
Well, no, this is Moltec Packaging, which is trading at 262.8 from what I can see.
Well, it doesn't seem like a very liquid stock.
No, it's not a very liquid. All right, then we can
yeah, but if, Kunal, if you have a...
So no, this stock since October 2018 till now, the broad range made by the stock is 280, and on the lower side it's 255. So unless this range is taken out decisively on the higher side, going long would be difficult. If you're a very short-term trader, keep buying near to the bottom of 255 and keep selling near to 280 mark.
Okay, Kunal, we have a question on RSWM. This one again is directed to you because it's a 1 month view that the gentleman requires. We have Raj Shah, who says that, he has 3,000 shares of RSWM at 230. It's currently at 238, so he's sitting on an 8-point profit right now. With a 1 month horizon, his question is, should he book profits today?
So, October 2018 stock made low of 150. Since then, till 275, it was clearly in higher top, higher bottom formation. Today's movement in the market is clearly indicating double bottom formation near to the last consolidation phase. If you're already holding, continue to hold. Expect the stock to reach 275 in a month's time itself. By any chance the stock manages to go about 275, it will be a clear inverse head and shoulder. The stock is clearly heading for 375 to 400 on positional basis.
Okay, we've got several questions in the metal space. I'm trying to find as many as possible so I can just combine all of them and ask. So, Sharmila, do you have coverage on methane alloys? We've got Ragesh, who's bought at levels of 800 for the long term, and now the stock is currently trading at 465, so he's lost quite a lot, and he's asking if we should average. And second, Ramanathan Hariharan is asking for Kalyani Steel for the long term.
Kalyani Steels, I think, is okay. I'm sorry, I missed the name of the first stock.
The first one is Methane Alloys.
No, I'm afraid I don't track that. But I think Kalyani Steel is trading at fairly decent valuation. Numbers were also okay. So if your horizon is sort of decently long, then you can continue to hold.
Okay, Sharmila, I have one more for you, and this is on Divi's Laboratories. We have Jay, who wants a fundamental view here. He says, would you want to buy into Divi's Laboratories at these valuations? What would you do?
He wants to buy at this price?
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, at this point in time, among the larger cap pharma, I prefer a Sun Pharma or even a Lupin at this price. But yes, I think Divi's Lab has always been a strong name within that space. But I think to enter the levels are slightly on the higher side. Possibly because they've not had any of the concerns which some of these other pharma names have had. So in that sense, they are in a better position. But if you had to buy a stock which is sort of undergoing pain and where there is expectation of a better return, then I would suggest that you look at a Lupin or a Sun Pharma.
Let's pull up the charts for TCS and address the short-term aspect of it. Perhaps we can get a view. We've got a few investors who are asking what to do with the short-term levels. Currently, stock is trading about 2% lower at 1,846. We've already addressed the fundamentals, but what levels, according to you, should be watched?
So, TCS was in the range of around 1875 to around 1935 since a month. Now, decisive selling has happened, has emerged today on the counter. So, I would say that if it's closing near to the low, definitely the first level to watch out from very short-term perspective would be 1800. By any chance the stock goes below 1800, it will be a clear downward rally. You expect the stock then to reach near to 1550 to 1600 mark.
Well, of course, TCS is very precariously poised, considering not just TCS but even the Nifty IT index, which has been testing the 200 daily moving average for quite some time now. In fact, the fourth time in 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, and the data that we have is correct. But we'll move on and take one on Indiabulls housing finance. A long-term view is required. Deepak Konkane wants to know. I'm going to take this one up with Sharmila. Sharmila, it's at around 816 odd levels. What is your long-term view with respect to Indiabulls housing finance? If you don't prefer this one, anything else in the housing finance space?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think overall housing as well as real estate housing finance companies were a little excited yesterday because of that GST council meeting and the expectation that that slab could be lowered for houses under construction. But that didn't come through, and I think overall, so I think there's been a little bit of correction on that space. I prefer an LIC housing finance within that space over Indiabulls finance. So my recommendation would be to go with LIC housing finance.
All right, well, it's that time of the show where we hit the rapid fire segment. Remember, this is where we try and fit as many questions as possible in the span of 2 minutes. Just a quick shout out to both our guests. Do keep your answers as short as possible. Even a sentence will do. I'm going to start with you, Sharmila. We've got questions on a couple of stocks here, Motherson Sumi and Infosys. Rather, Motherson Sumi, Infosys and VIP Industries. Which of these would you pick for 5 to 10 years?
I think all of them look good with a 5-year sort of a perspective, but I think possibly VIP Industries in terms of valuations is trading at its closer to its high. So that is something that you could consider, given the fact that I'm expecting next 5-6 months to be a little volatile. So you could stagger your buying, but I think all three stocks are good. Okay,
we have a question from Adit Shah. He wants a 3-month view on Cadila Healthcare, which he's bought at 340. Kunal, how would you help him?
So lower top, lower bottom formation is halted, consolidation going on. It would be a best trigger once the stock gives a closing about 355 mark.
Okay, Janali also wants to know, Sharmila, if you would buy L&T for the long term?
Yes, I would. I think this is a great time to get into L&T.
Okay, we have a question from Mayank Saraf. Views on West Coast paper. The question is, it's fallen from 400 to 300. Can it be bought into? Sharmila, this one is for you. Would you buy West Coast paper now?
I think I prefer JK paper over this, but the paper story seems to have sort of gone for a correction. So wait for that and then look into JK paper, I would recommend.
Sharmila, 8K miles, I mean, a significant burning of capital here. Bought at 700, stock is currently at around 150. Should he exit or should he hold on? I would understand not put any more money, right? Absolutely, and I would say exit.
Okay, we have another question on ITC. Okay, we've taken ITC. All right, Andhra Sugars, Sharmila, once again for you. I'm struggling to find technical queries, but yeah, what is your view on Andhra Sugars, which is now actually into chemicals, if I'm not mistaken?
Oh, okay. Then that I think puts a different spin on it, because I'm not really positive on the sugar story. But if their business is now more chemical, then it can be looked at. But sugar story, I'm not positive.
Okay, well, I do believe that we are running out of time on this particular edition of Ask PQ. I'd like to thank both our guests, Sharmila and Kunal, for helping our viewers with all their queries. Do remember that we tried to take as many of your queries as possible, and we will take as many queries as possible on Monday as well. So you can join us back if we missed your query. Do let us know if we did, and we'll try and take up your queries first.
Of course, don't forget that you can come back and visit all these previous episodes and take a look at whether or not we have addressed a lot of these queries. And of course, stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint, and up next is Power Lunch.